Hello everyone.
Hi Ben.
So, hello and welcome to the final episode of the Glassworks Music Podcast 2017. This is the Christmas special. Joining me today, we have Rob Field back from episode 2. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks Ben.
We have a new face here. Well, not a new face in the department, but Mr. Adam Fullerton, who is the head of music here at the Glassworks. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks Ben. You?
I'm good, yeah. And Miss Anna Braithwaite, so you're the singing teacher,
That's right.
and you're joining us as well today. It's going to be a bit of a shorter one. I think we're aiming for about half an hour. So, would you be able to tell us a bit about yourself, Miss Braithwaite?
What would you like to know, Ben? What sort of detail?
If we go back to the beginning, how did you get into music?
Oh, well, I suppose that probably started quite young. My parents were involved in the 1970s folk scene in Canterbury,
Yeah.
which was a sort of central part of the folk revival.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent a lot of time around people singing folk music, which they still do now in the pubs and clubs of East Kent, and being embarrassed by my parents' Morris dancing on the high street in Canterbury, that sort of thing. And I loved being in choirs. I also loved dancing, and I ended up being picked for a professional production of Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, where they have a little choir for kids.
Yeah.
And that was at the Old Marlow, and which is now the Whitefriars shopping centre, I think. And I thought, the singing's quite fun actually. And got to be in professional shows quite a few times, and joined a choir run in the Kent Music Centre in Westgate in Canterbury.
Yeah.
And we ended up singing and winning awards in the Sainsbury's Choir of the Year, and in the Llangollen Eisteddfod, which is a nice music festival in Wales. And I just loved music, basically.
So, you've obviously had quite a good upbringing in music. What
I was lucky, yeah.
What genre would you associate yourself with?
Well, I sing... Over the last 20 years, I've sung a lot of cabaret, but that's the joy of cabaret.
Yeah.
You can sing any genre you like, make it your own. So I was doing a lot of gigs over the weekend where I was singing anything from turn of last century, kind of Harlem jazz, to Queen. So, and everything in between.
Obviously, there are some links between you and Mr. Field in the punk genre. Is that right?
We both like punk, yeah, and I ran a workshop to sort of make a DIY punk band in the Quarter House a few months ago, which was really fun. And I just did a bit of research. I'm not afraid to try new styles, really, and I wrote a piece that was quite influenced by punk for the Folkestone Triennial.
You was involved in the Folkestone Triennial, which is a big arts exhibition.
That's right.
It's held every 3 years around the town.
And an artist called Diane Dever worked with an architect group called The Decorators, and they had one of the triennial pieces, I suppose, but it was really a building for things to happen inside. So lots of people came in and animated the space by having speeches, talks. I think they were making cider out of apples and doing all sorts of things in there. But I had a whole weekend where I had some music that I'd written performed there, and it was about the regeneration of Folkestone. So it was quite a political piece, and I felt that punk was the right genre for what I was trying to say in that. And in places it was also influenced by my choral background, and I've spent time as an opera singer as well. So that all comes into the music that I write now, which is pretty eclectic.
That's led on to you teaching music here at the Glassworks. Have you taught at different places before here? Or was this the first time you've actually done teaching?
Well, I've avoided teaching because I didn't go through formal music education myself.
Right.
As far as having a degree, I did a degree in fashion. I suppose I thought I probably didn't know all the right things or something, but I did have a really good training from two teachers called Mary King and Maureen Scott in London when I lived there. And I found that I did know quite a lot. And I thought when I moved to Kent, what shall I do? How will I meet people, and how will I make some money? And luckily, people were interested in my writing, but also it was people were welcoming to me coming and teaching singing. So I started off at Y Free School, and then when I heard that there was a job going, and I live in Folkestone, and I thought, when I heard there was a job going here in Folkestone, I thought, well, that's
just
better.
Just
take it, yeah.
I'm glad
I did.
Do you find that similar to your journey into music, sir?
Yeah, I guess so. I had parents that were very interested in music. Dad used to make a living as a musician in his early 20s, and Mum was always very interested in music as well. So yeah, more instrumental to start with for me. So I started learning flute when I was in P5. I think that's the equivalent of class 4 over here, and got into it really quickly, and it helped me out a lot actually. I had some speech and language difficulties as a kid, and then I found as soon as I got into music that I realised what rhythm was, and I learned how to breathe properly and phrasing, and it helped out with that a lot, so that gave me more confidence and kind of set the ball rolling really. So I played flute right through until I was, I still play, but until I was 16, and then I picked up saxophone.
And you're quite a high grade in it now.
Yeah, so I did grades and things. I decided to go down that route, but I realised quite early that I was actually more of a talented saxophonist than I was a flautist. So carried that through to university. Very lucky to go to quite a good music school back in Northern Ireland, Regent House Grammar Schools, with good choirs and wind bands and things like that. Quite a traditional music education until I went to university really, and I started to branch out more into popular genres and jazz and funk and things like that. So yeah.
How about you? I mean, Mr. Field, we heard quite well. I mean, the entire episode on episode 2, we heard quite a lot about your journey. But do you pick links from both teachers' journeys?
Not overly, because neither of my parents are musicians. In fact, not really many people in my family were musicians at all, really.
So you're like a pioneer for your family for music?
So my family they all love music. They just didn't really play it. So when we talk about me being into punk and stuff, it was only because my dad was obsessed with the Clash and the Sex Pistols and the Specials and the Damned and whoever, all those kind of great 70s kind of punk and new wave bands. But yeah, in terms of musicians, I think my great grandfather, who I'd never met, he played the accordion.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I have his old accordion as well. I can't. It's such a hard instrument to play. But yeah, we have that. And I think he brought it over from Cyprus, but I'm not sure because he was super
right. So Christmas just around the corner. What are your plans? I mean, everyone. If we start with you, Miss.
Singing around the fire, no.
Perfect harmony.
Yeah, of course. We're wearing nice thick jumpers and someone at the piano. No, actually, I've been singing Christmas songs since the beginning of November because I've been rehearsing for Christmas Cabaret.
I'm guessing like stuff like Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree.
A bit of that, but we actually do our own arrangements of sort of unexpected things and try and make them sound like our unique sound. So we even did a bit of Walking in the Air and Last Christmas.
Oh, Ala Jones.
Yeah, and sort of mix it all together. And we do a lot of Andrew's Sisters and kind of swing numbers as well. But I'm kind of a little bit sung out for Christmas songs now, and we've done our last Christmas gig. So,
what are we going to be doing on Christmas Day?
I'm going to be at my dad's house with my family, and probably just eating a lot, and try not to have too much to drink, because I'll have to drive home.
Schiller's quite nice.
Yeah, you're right. It's all right. It's quite sweet though, isn't it?
Yeah, I love Schiller. I brought some in yesterday, and everyone was trying to get some.
Soft drinks are available.
We're not sponsored by Schiller.
No,
We can also get
but
some
we
Coke.
should be. Maybe you should get some sponsorship.
What about you, Mr. Fullerton?
Well, we're waiting on the arrival of our first baby any day.
Oh wow!
So
Congratulations.
thank you very much. So we haven't really made any plans, to be honest, because we know if we do, they'll just go to scrap anyway.
Will the baby be called Noel?
It could be called Noel. Or Jesus. Yeah, or just
Or Robin.
Yeah, Robin. I hadn't thought of Robin actually. It's also my favourite bird.
That could work very well. Thanks, Anna. Yeah, so we don't know, Ben, really. We haven't made any plans very deliberately, which I think is brilliant. It's quite refreshing for this time of year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no plans, I'm afraid.
Or a brogue type of shoe, Mr. Field.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was anyway.
How about you then, Mr. Field?
Yeah, I mean, Christmas is really busy for us because my wife's family have quite strict traditions that they stick to.
Yeah.
So Christmas Eve is very much spent with her family, so we go to a pub and then we do carols at St John's Church, and then we have fish and chips, then go home. Then Christmas morning is at her parents' house. Then I go see my sister as well, so I drive from Capel to Sellinge and then spend about an hour with my sisters, and then we drive to my parents.
I think that's
It's great
yeah.
stuff.
I mean, everyone has their what they dub Christmas traditions. For us, it's every year, a week before. Obviously, we put up the Christmas tree, Christmas decks. Watch the Polar Express, brilliant film with Tom Hanks. Then on the eve before Christmas, so Christmas Eve, we go to Canterbury and we watch the Marlow Theatre performance this year. I think it's Peter Pan, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Then we go to one of the clubs in Ashford. And we
What do you think
Party.
about the music that they have in pantomimes?
I'm a big fan of it actually. Each year they sort of they mix so much into it that it's enjoyable for ages from like 2 to 200. So
You're using random ones in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I remember my nephew was in a panto a few years ago. He did Cinderella, and they just started singing the song from Les Mis. Like, okay, why not? Like, I think it was after Let's Get Ready to Rumble by PJ Duncan as well.
I thought that was Anton Tech that did that one.
Yeah, that was their name before they went.
PJ and Duncan.
It's actually it's reminded me that's actually my first public performance was in panto when I was 2.
Right. So that's where you began.
Yeah, because my mum.
Sorry, when you was 2.
Yeah. I know. My mum and her best friend are really good writers, and they wrote really excellent pantomime scripts for our village pantomime, and everyone got so into it. We actually had a real waterfall on the stage of the pantomime. It was a water wheel for Aladdin, and it was like they created this whole oriental garden.
That's incredible.
And we'd do like dance routines painted with UV paint like skeletons, and they'd turn the lights out, and they really went to town. And I think that helped sort of guide me towards cabaret in a way, because pantomime it comes from variety, and it's about putting all these mismatched stuff together and sort of telling a story with it, and not being too sort of stuck to the original intention of that music or whatever, but bending it and twisting it and making it work for your story. But yeah, I think I was a little star or something, and in a tutu. And I spent it was the highlight of my year actually. I think we did it in February half term, so every sort of beginning of each year we'd just be deep in rehearsals sort of all weekend and some evenings and stuff, and we'd do a matinee and an evening show. And the big treat was that we'd get driven down the A2 to the Little Chef for a meal, the kids, in between those 2 shows, and that was pretty something for a girl from a little village.
It's such a British thing as well, isn't it, pantomime?
Yeah, it's a big thing for it.
Rhea Walker, our drama teacher at the academy, and I think someone that she was with, or a friend of her at the time, and she's Australian, took her to the panto, and she wasn't expecting it at all. She had no idea what a pantomime was.
What was going on?
I was just like, the audience were just so disrespectful of the actors up there.
Oh no, they weren't.
I mean, pantomimes obviously in episode 6 we had Miss Van Hoven Palmer on, and we spoke about Shakespeare, and that was 16th century, 17th century sort of time, and people are still doing plays to this day, so they've stuck around. I think that's William Shakespeare was British, wasn't he?
Yes.
I think that's why it's a big part of the British. Well, it led on. I think it led on from that. I think there are links because it's still on. It's stage performance, isn't it?
Well, men dressed as women and all of that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, I guess you could say that. So wasn't expecting the same kind of audience interaction, maybe.
On that, well, you wouldn't have tomatoes thrown at you today. You'd be chucked out.
Yeah, not unless you. They just want to sell you kind of lightsabers and all that sort of thing now. I mean, I think it's really interesting as a performer to be involved in something like that. Sometimes they do 3 shows a day, and I imagine being the dame or one of the really big roles, it must be utterly exhausting. But I think they can make their money in that month, for the rest of the year probably. But I've quite a few friends from the cabaret circuit who end up being in Panto over Christmas because the same skills are used actually. That kind of, being good with comedy and being able to pick up lots of different styles of performance. But there's that thing also of having someone famous in it now, and I don't know if that was always a tradition or not, but they kind of sell the tickets by having people off the telly, don't they, as well? You kind of know your career's over, really, don't you, when you're invited to do Panto?
I remember, because I used to live in South London, going past Catford Theatre and seeing, just random names who were on EastEnders 2 or 3 years ago at the time, just being
They had they had Mr. Maker on at the Marlow a few years ago.
Oh, really?
He did it 2 years running. On that topic, you did your own sort of pantomime sort of performing on stage last year in the School of Rock.
That's pantomime. Yeah, I guess. Would musical theatre be cast as that kind of?
There was a line in it, something to do with Barbra Streisand.
Oh yeah. So that was Billy, who was played brilliant by Lewis. It's the part. I mean, it's in the film as well, where he's going. The teacher's trying to find out what music they're into, and he's shocked to hear that they've never heard of Led Zeppelin or any of those kind of 70s rock bands, and they started talking about what bands they like, what musicians they like, and it's been updated since the film. I think in the film they're talking about Christina Aguilera and Puff Daddy. In the musical, because it only came out last year, it's Taylor Swift and Kanye West, and one of them says, Barbra Streisand.
As a metal star. But that does tie in a way, that changing of keeping all the jokes topical and stuff. That's how pantomime sort of gets most of its laughs, isn't it? Poking fun at politicians. Same with cabaret and.
You make me think of the Pogues when you say cavalry. Cavalry, sorry.
Cabaret. Cabaret.
Yeah.
Cabaret.
The Pogues,
the Pogues. Why is that? Do they have a song with the word cabaret in it? Or?
No, they don't have. Is that the sort of style like Fairy Tale of New York?
Yeah.
Well, I think Fairy Tale of New York is actually quite different to the rest of the Pogue stuff, really, wasn't it? They were one of the bands who kind of inspired the kind of fusion, I guess, of the kind of Irish folk music and kind of punk rock kind of stuff. You end up with bands like Dropkick Murphys and Flogging Molly and stuff like that, really. Yeah, I mean,
cabaret is having a resurgence now across the country, and it started probably when I started out about 15 years ago.
So you've got 15 years experience in the industry.
Slightly more than that.
Slightly more.
But we were slightly ahead of our time in that we were really into swing music when everyone else was saying, why?
So like jazz, I mean, that's where Mr. Fullerton.
That's right. It is like jazz, but it's got its own kind of like, sort of 3 girls singing together in close harmony. That's a sort of certain period.
Sort of a cappella?
Yeah. Well, sometimes a cappella, but, that was a real thing in the 40s with the Andrews Sisters and lots of sort of...
Yeah, there's something on BBC the other day, actually, about kind of the cabaret, kind of just before kind of Nazi kind of taking over Germany. Actually, really interesting.
Oh, yeah. It's highly political.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying, and it's kind of, for a lot of people, it was the place where they could openly, go there and have, be whatever sexuality they want to be without
exactly,
the fear of,
Arrest,
I guess, yeah. But yeah, that was really interesting. Not even just kind of sexuality, just in terms of being a bit more out there and not wanting to be in a marching band, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they were political. They were critical of what politics was going on at the time, and it was about outsiders, I suppose, as well. And often you could trace cabaret back to maybe 1880s Paris in the Chat Noir, the Black Cat, cabaret venue where Eric Satie used to play. So we see him as a classical pianist, but actually he used to play in the cabaret there. And there were raconteurs, which are, I suppose, people who tell stories and provoke people, and they would tell a story, but they were obviously being satirical and describing wealthy people or well-known people of the period, but just giving them different names and sort of disguising what they were saying. But basically their idea was to provoke and to annoy their audience. They would do things like put glue on the seats and quite basic stuff really, but they would agent provocateurs. They were really trying to change the way people thought about things. And I think music's got slightly away from that now, that music is almost just an industry and an entertainment. There aren't very many political artists anymore in this country. I mean, rap was really interesting for that for a while, but even that's become like a kind of slightly faded version of itself and lost its teeth, I think.
That's interesting you said that, because Eminem recently released an album called Revival, came out last week, and Adam Waywell, who's on episode 1, Ollie, who was on episode 5, neither of them like it. And I find that quite shocking, really, because Eminem is one of the biggest rappers out there, if not the biggest, and the best.
He's classic. I mean, I'm not.
And they're not fans of it.
I'm not an expert at all on rap, but I used to love Eminem, and this latest one, I think he's lost it a bit, to be honest.
He did a hit with Ed Sheeran, which peaked at number 6.
See,
There you are.
Stuff with Beyonce and Ed Sheeran. And
He's trying to get big, but he is big already, and it
he
just.
is big. It's like you say,
I'm unsure
one
whether
of
it works.
If not arguably the biggest rapper of, certainly in my generation. Probably, still carrying on now. But I think I think he would probably get himself a lot more respect if he concentrated more on the kind of political commentaries he has been doing. So he did a kind of freestyle verse about Trump, which to me signals what he's more really like.
Yeah.
Rather than doing kind of self-obsessed, which he is self-obsessed really when you think about it. That he did with Beyonce. I wasn't a fan of that personally. Have you guys heard that? It's got loads of weird. So it's basically like it's just a piano, and like Beyonce's chorus is really nice, a bit predictable, but then his verses, it's just got loads of like rustling paper in the background for no real reason. So it's meant to be, I don't know, maybe he's like some kind of tortured writer.
Yeah.
Guy with writer's block.
Yeah,
Perhaps
but
in the background.
It doesn't work for me. It just sounds a bit random. It sounds like they forgot to delete that channel.
There's a guy practicing throwing paper in the bin and continually missing.
Something like that. Yeah.
So, Mr. Fullerton, what Miss Braithwaite's been talking about has reminded me of a song that you played the class, including myself, last year, and I couldn't stop singing it.
I'm worried now.
Couldn't stop singing it for probably a month.
Can you talk us through that entire lesson plan, please?
Yeah.
I had earworm for that song, and it was Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I just played that to, the whole listening idea was to put on music that I thought you might not have heard of before, or you'd all have heard of the Beatles, but
it was inspired.
Actually heard the Eleanor Rigby or other things I played, so...
I think that's probably my favourite lesson that I've had here at the Glassworks, actually.
They sell something of hers quite recently. I think it was like her actual funeral booklet or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but something like that went for something £20,000, like an Eleanor Rigby. It was either a funeral booklet or something along those kind of lines. It might be a gravestone or something like that.
Oh gosh.
It's a bit depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's not a happy-go-lucky song, really. No.
Actually, if you look on YouTube and type in Eleanor Rigby and Shoo Shoo Baby, there's a recording of an a cappella arrangement I've done of that song.
I remember that, yeah.
And that was included in a cabaret alongside stuff from musicals and all sorts of things, because it's just a classic song. It's got a great lyric, and it just drives, doesn't it? And yeah,
it's got good lyrics, good melody.
Yeah.
It may be a minor sort of bass song, but it's definitely catchy.
Yeah, and I think it's about death, really, isn't it? And dying
Right
alone.
before Christmas.
And it's something that everyone worries about.
Yeah.
But but actually, Christmas can bring up those
Because it's Jesus.
issues for people. Not really. I think that people just, it's when you're supposed to be with family and you're supposed to feel surrounded by friends and family that you can look around you and you can feel the most lonely. So, it's probably quite a pertinent one for this time of year, but it would be an odd choice, perhaps.
It's going to go on those, Christmas radio stations.
No.
No.
Alongside Jingle Bells.
Well,
Yeah.
saying that,
In between Mariah Carey and...
I think all of you have heard my own song, Gateway to Heaven.
We have.
And I played it to you last week, Miss.
Yes.
And you said it reminded you of death
Hmm.
because it's a gateway to heaven. But the actual song isn't about that. It's about spending time with someone and just imagining heaven as a happy place.
Hmm.
So heavenly instead of death and horrible things. Which was quite interesting for me because it made me think about how I need to restructure some of my songs to make them portray
I don't know. I think if you can,
elsewhere.
If you can get people to think of, if you can make the subject kind of harder to guess, I think that's a good thing. To be honest,
Is it?
like if you can kind of, I don't know. I kind of like that people would take different interpretations of maybe a lyric that I wrote, and make it fit them. I don't necessarily think it needs to be so obvious that you have to get it straight away.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people who do that where you have to really, have to think about it. I think Bob Dylan was a big one for that as well.
Did he write any Christmas
He
classics?
didn't write any. What? I think he did do a Christmas song though.
Did he?
Hold on, I'm going to say.
Oh, come on, get out Google.
Oh yeah, probably.
Keep on talking.
Too much electric, you probably.
Yeah, we ought to sort of try and list the weirdest people to have ever
that on
written
the
a
Born
Christmas
Again?
song.
I think Frankie Goes to Hollywood comes to mind when you say that.
Really, what did they do?
There's a power of love.
The
video
power
Christmas.
of love.
Was that a
Right.
Christmas song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Oh.
a Christmas Eve.
The video
Yeah,
was
it was
Christmassy.
Oh.
Die Hard's a Christmas film. It's not really.
Yeah. Is that the
No,
film
but-
it was in?
But Ed Sheeran was on the radio the other day, and he was saying how he just wrote a song and then they put snow in the video, just to sell it at Christmas.
E17 did it as well, didn't they?
I'll Stay Another Day.
Yeah. There's no mention of
He was
Christmas
on
in
TV.
I think
the
that
other
made
day. He
it-
wrote that in August.
Yeah.
I know he was saying he wrote it in August in about 15 minutes, and then of course the record company got hold of it and said,
Well,
right,
So
very
I'm
to-
just going to
snow.
put some
And
bells on at the end.
I mean,
I must admit, it's one of my favourite Christmas tracks. I love
There
it.
we are.
E17 is quite a sad case for a band because they ended on quite a unhappy note because of a certain radio interview. But E17, they made
It wouldn't have happened with In Your Hands, would it, Ben?
no, I don't. No. Yeah, E17 may have written that song in 50 minutes, but it beat Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas, which is a huge song, even more huge, and
It's number 2 at the moment.
it made it to number 2. It got knocked off the top spot by. No, sorry, it never made it to the top spot as far as I'm aware, but
I mean,
it was-
maybe in the UK it never did.
Yeah.
Imagine it did in America.
it was beaten by E17, Stay Another Day. So it just shows
But
how.
because the way people can buy
Yeah.
music now by, it's not like records used to run out and that was it, or CDs or whatever, Now it seems that you could enter the charts every year with your Christmas song, so it's
It's
really worth
streaming.
having a go, isn't it?
They had to change the rules about the charts and everything with the streaming because when Ed Sheeran released that album, I think he had 7
Nine.
songs.
Nine.
Was it
9 in the
yeah.
top 10. Yeah.
9 songs in the top 10, which shows how ridiculous that kind of gets, really. So yeah, don't know.
It's a weird. It's yeah.
It's a weird. Oh, sorry. It's a weird one, really. I don't know if the charts are really. Are they that relevant anymore? Like,
No.
No. I couldn't
hmm.
tell you what's number one.
I
It's Ed
do.
Sheeran, so.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Oh, is it?
It's,
I'm
yeah.
just guessing.
At the moment, yeah.
It is.
The number one is, as far as I'm aware, it's Ed Sheeran and Beyonce.
Yeah.
Because Ed Sheeran did a song
That's
called.
a weird couple, isn't it? Like, it's
Do you
not-
think they
it's
ever got together? I think they were in studios in separate.
Yeah,
continents?
Like you hear that song, it's not a very believable duet, really, that those two could ever, be singing a love song to each other.
No.
No,
Same with Eminem and Beyonce.
I guess so. I don't know. don't you know with Eminem or
Well,
don't you know with
I mean,
Ed Sheeran?
with Christmas number ones and number ones in general, the 2015 Christmas number one. Take a guess at what it was.
Was it Mad World? No, that was a few
No.
years before, wasn't it?
Was
Mr.
that
Fullerton?
Rage Against the Machine?
No. Miss Braithwaite.
One year ago.
I'd be surprised if you don't get this actually.
Was it a current song 2 years ago, or was it?
It was the National Health Service Choir.
Oh, yeah, you spoke about this the other day.
Yeah.
didn't you?
Really?
Yeah, the
What
NHS.
were they singing?
I can't remember the exact details, but it was.
Eleanor Rigby.
Did you know that Last Christmas by Wham never got to number one?
What?
Really?
Really?
I heard this on Radio 1 the other day, so you know, it's just in case you need to fact check. Yeah, it's the highest selling song never to reach number one.
That's incredible.
Yeah, never reached number one. Not even now.
It still
That's
can.
true.
It gets in the top 10 every Christmas, but
Maybe one
never
year
gets
it will.
number one.
Yeah.
Maybe you should start a petition, Ben.
And then a Rigby. Yeah, I like that, sir.
Just put some bells on at the end and you can make it a Christmas
Yeah,
song.
why not? Make a nice video.
And maybe that should be a unit in the music
Make it-
syllabus.
turn over the Rigby
Try
to a
and-
Christmas song.
Try and write a number one, and you make sure you got your royalties just in case
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
does a
You
good
need
job
it.
of it.
Well, Eleanor Rigby's only got 2 chords, I believe. So you don't
Yeah.
even
E
need
minor and
the 4.
yeah. Da, 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 da,
That's
It's
that's
got-
that's from Star Wars you're doing there.
I think it uses the same chord line. The Cantina something or other.
Yeah.
So we're leaving the European Union. We're
Yes.
leaving Europe.
In
So
2019.
yeah, do you think that's going to affect our music industry?
Well, I'm not experienced in politics, but I think that it might. That's a difficult question because you wouldn't really put music and politics together. But I reckon with all the changes that have happened recently, it probably will.
Maybe it'll influence the music people write. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested to.
See what happens.
Yeah, well, I'm just interested to see how artists react to all of this stuff because it feels like they've just been off doing their own thing. And I'd be interested to see if people start using their art to sort of explore those ideas
I'd hope
again.
so. I'd hope some people more in the public light would do so.
Mm.
Because, you know, had some, you know, like Brexit is a take or leave kind of thing anyway, so I'm not going to get into the politics of that. But even like, you know, horrible stuff like Grenfell Tower, you'd have thought there'd been some kind of musical, even a, you know, kind of
Even
reaction to
fundraising
it.
thing or something.
There is a link there. I mean, you were talking sort of more about more extreme stuff like fires, the bombing.
I mean, the political aspect
Yeah.
of that is,
Mm.
you know, so that, you know, obviously the kind of debate of the council, you know, not
Yeah.
doing the fire safety and, you know, the rich looking out for themselves. And
There was
Mm.
obviously there were devastating bombs dropped at the Manchester Arena during one of Ariana Grande's concerts,
Yeah.
and
I could
Ariana.
just imagine, you know, like, you know,
Yeah.
if the band like the Clash was still going today, that, you know, that those kind of songs would definitely be going on.
Yeah.
Some form of
Yeah.
album. And just don't really, I don't know. Just don't, I mean, it might be that I'm not particularly in touch with what's kind of current at the moment, but someone like Ed Sheeran, who's got the public eye and has got the microphone
Huge,
to kind
yeah.
of do so.
I mean, he came out of nowhere really, just busking.
Yeah, but he's not using it for good.
No.
He's using it for bland.
Yeah. It's good, I like that.
I
I
think
mean-
it might have shifted from
Shape of You was a brilliant hit.
30 years ago. It would have been, you know, a band coming out, but now
Mhm.
we seem to have Twitter, and it's who wins the slagging match online. It's, and the arts have been.
I mean,
to
even
an
Trump
extent,
uses
especially
Twitter.
music
Yeah.
removed from political commentary, which is a shame. And although I don't know a lot about grime, I thought, okay, great, maybe this is something that young people can get hold of and air their views. And actually, they're just copying my view what the Americans are doing, and they're rapping about lots of money and
Mm.
good-looking women and cars,
No,
which is a real
Yeah,
shame,
well,
I think,
and
because
then Stormzy does
Yeah.
a duet with, guess who?
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
So do you think it's perhaps our job to try and encourage the kids who come here to explore things like that through their music making?
I mean, I remember when Brexit was going on, we had quite a small class at that time, didn't we? Really interesting to see, like, a lot of these kids who are kind of, and I've got to be really careful here, but like, kind of seem to be quite left-leaning.
What do you mean by that?
To so their politics were a bit more left wing than they were right. You know, I think all of them voted to leave, and a lot of them, it seemed to be more what they're. One in particular said he voted to leave because his mum told him he had to.
I mean, to be fair, it will probably be the older generations. So there's probably a generation between us, Mr. Field. Same with Mr. Fullerton, perhaps two between
Thanks.
us. Miss Braithwaite. So
What is a generation, by the way?
You're way off there, Ben, just to say.
Is it
I look older than I am.
what 3? Is that worse?
Yes.
What I was going to say was
Moving on.
at least a generation apart between all of us. When I say us, I mean me and you 3.
Yes, okay, you're younger than us, Ben, yes.
And I think the older generations who are older than me understand what Brexit could actually do. Because I'm still in the dark about how it actually changed the country.
I don't think they did.
Any of us
Yeah.
do,
What's
which
the
is
problem?
Why,
Yeah,
it's why, in my view, it's ridiculous that they voted for it. But anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
possibly
but
could.
there's stuff that your generation could be doing. You know, it doesn't take you 5 minutes to go on the BBC news website and look what's going on in the world. And I think when they did a competition recently, like a short story competition, I think the most used word in it was Trump. We've obviously got an idea fairly much of politics. Like we were talking about Trump earlier. But
Yeah.
it even wasn't in the most particularly the most serious sense. We were looking at that video the other day where he slurred his words,
Yeah.
that cracks me up. So,
Pardon?
Let's hope he isn't listening to this.
Let's hope he is.
So, Ben, you were involved in a Christmas concert a week
I
or
was,
so
yeah.
ago with the Glassworks. How did you enjoy that?
So, are you talking about Grotto's Groove?
I believe I am.
Yeah, I ended up being Santa in the end.
Did you? Nice.
You
Good.
did one performance, Ben, didn't
Yeah, I did one performance. I think for me, it's very stressful setting up a gig. I realised that getting on with people, doing things that everybody agrees with is very challenging. It was definitely, this has been my toughest term so far.
But do you think you've come out a bigger and better person?
I always think that I said this to the Christchurch interviewer. Sorry, just adjust this mic. I said to the Christchurch interviewer that if I make a mistake, I learn from it and don't make the same mistake next time. But that's a load of rubbish, really, because I end up making the same mistake again.
Excellent, you're human.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the whole point, though,
Maybe
isn't
don't
it?
release this until after you get your offer from Christchurch.
Yeah.
So tell me, what mistake do you think you made? Was it not just a learning curve, to work as a team or whatever? Or?
There's a teacher here at the Glassworks called Miss Wiedenholt. I don't know if I said that correctly, so if you're listening, I apologise. Who uses that quote quite a lot. Life should be a learning curve. You make mistakes and you learn from that.
Yeah.
And I think it's
That's
the
how
same
you
with
become
music.
a better musician as
Yeah.
well.
So if I can't reach a high note, like a top A or something, I practice and then I can reach the top A.
But make a few nasty sounds on the way there.
Yeah.
So how do you think a concert of Christmas music might be different to any other time of year? Do you think it was just the pressure of Christmas, or do you think...
I've got an answer to that. Christmas is always built up in the preceding weeks to it. And then when Christmas actually lands, it's like, and it's over. So I think it's not so much pressure, it's more, if you sang a Christmas song in July, it wouldn't work. So it's very, Christmas is in December, and December is the time of year where that's
Just got
acceptable,
that
I guess.
window.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to remember, Ben, if you're organising a gig for December, then you obviously have to do the prep before it
Yeah, definitely.
as well. And that's, it was obviously annoying for your group, and you're all kind of Christmas songed out now. But if you do, if you're doing a Christmas event, a lot of Christmas events, the planning starts in January.
I've got bookings for next Christmas, and I've had them for
Wow.
several months. And we took pictures in our Christmas outfits.
Are people able to check this out?
Yes, at www.shushubaby.co.uk, and we took our Christmas shots for our publicity in August, and I'm standing there with sort of sweat running down my head, wearing sort of coat and everything in the middle of the street. So, yeah, you have to do some weird things and be quite ahead of the curve. And actually, I think that's probably something you do learn at college, is that you can't prepare the day before for something like a concert. You almost have to decide when the date is and work back from that.
Yeah.
And people, if you're being booked for an event or something, people might want to book you, 6-12 months in advance, and you've got to have it all ready and to sell to them before that. So recordings of all of that stuff and your images and all that sort of thing. So got to be prepared.
I think 2 more questions and then we'll finish up for today. So this microphone keeps technical difficulty, sorry. So the penultimate question is, what are your New Year's resolutions? And you will groan when I say that, but you got to think of them.
I'm going to get paid for all my work this year.
I don't know, Ben. Probably continue to get more involved in music outside of school. Go on, sorry. We can have a joint one.
Yeah, it's so tough because you make them and then by March you forget what they are, don't you?
No chocolate, and the next day, chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Eleanor Rigby.
I'm going to give up chocolate though. Anything I need more. I don't know. I guess just qualify for my NQT year, become a fully fledged teacher. Get all you guys through, get yourself and off to uni and everything. If I've done that, I can't really ask for much more out of the year, to be honest.
And I think for the final question...
Sorry, your microphone slipping down and you're sort of sliding
You're so relaxed.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey guys.
Almost horizontal. Sorry, okay, ultimate question.
Okay, just ignore the way I'm sitting. I'm sort of laying on the chair, just for visuals.
It's like a therapy session for Ben at the moment.
I feel like I'm on The Apprentice.
You're fired.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm undecided. Yeah.
So the ultimate question, the final question, is what would you say to people who want to pursue music in the future?
Try and get paid. No.
I think as a pastime and as a hobby, not great ways of describing it. It's fantastic as a living. I'm sure Anna will tell you in a second. It's not easy, but it can be very rewarding. Go for it. Why not?
Sometimes I think I can't believe I get paid to do this. So yeah, it's a pretty good career.
Yeah.
I think try and remember why you started doing it and what it is you really want to do. Otherwise, you can end up doing stuff for money, and it can actually kill the enjoyment for you. And that's true of any subject, to be fair. So
when I run a studio, that's exactly what happened. There's only so many birthday parties I could record until I started realising
Fair enough.
I've got about £1,000 worth of microphones recording 4-year-olds singing to a karaoke track. So,
joy.
yeah, I did more recording the bands here than I think I ever did at that studio. But yeah, on the same hand, I guess, if you really, really want to do music as something that's paid, you have to start off doing a lot of stuff you really don't want to do. But yeah, and at the same hand, try not to kill the enjoyment completely for you.
I think that's maybe not the word kill, but
Merry Christmas.
thank you very much for listening to the last 7 episodes of the Glassworks Music Podcast. We have a bonus coming out on I believe the 2nd of January. If it's not uploaded, then it'll probably be the 3rd or the 4th. But yeah, I hope to make a few more of these. Thank you all for coming on it. And
Thank you for asking us, Ben.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
And everyone else who's been on it, thank you as well. And thank you to whoever you are listening with your headphones on.
And happy Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Have a great one.
And time to go.
Thank you.
that's lucky. I've got my alarm going off there. We just managed to stop in time.
Back away quickly,
Well done, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks, sirs. See you in the new year.
See you in the new year. Have a fantastic Christmas.
Yeah.